What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Fish the Moment. In this video, I want to share a simple rule that I use to find bass quickly on new lakes or lakes I haven't been to in a long time. I'll show you how I use traditional sonar in combination with a contour line map to find productive areas that are holding fish within 30 minutes of getting to the lake. Let's get into it.
Today, guys, we're out here on Beaver Lake in Arkansas. It's the middle of September, so fishing is going to be really tough, and I don't know exactly where the fish are going to be on this lake today, so I'm going to use a very simple rule that I use whenever fishing is kind of tough or I don't know where the fish are, and that's the creek channel rule. Basically, all I'm going to do is start here close to where I put in today and try to find an area where the main river channel intersects with a secondary creek channel. I want to find a creek channel that's relatively short because I don't want to have to graph for like 2 or 3 miles. And my goal is to basically graph some of these areas that are right off the main river channel, like this nice little hump or kind of shallow point, and then also graph maybe some of these flats as well as the center of this ditch. Fish in September can be as deep as 30 or 40 feet of water out here in the middle of this creek channel, or as shallow as a foot of water up on this flat. And by trying to find an area where you have this main river channel that feeds into a secondary creek channel that's cutting into a flat, you can eliminate a ton of water very quickly. And usually this time of year, you're going to find fish somewhere along this creek channel transition, whether it is in that main river channel, halfway back in that little creek, or all the way in the back of it. So we have a lot of good stuff to check out right here. We're gonna pull up our 2D sonar, side scan, and also our mapping. We're just gonna graph around. We can see some bait already popping on the screen on that 2D sonar about 10 feet down. So that gives us an idea that maybe these fish are setting up a little bit shallower this morning. We have some nice overcast conditions, which are really nice. And I'm just going to start graphing. The lake is a little bit low right now, about 4 to 5 feet low. It's actually pretty low. So the map is just a tiny bit off. So don't worry if you see them graphing a little bit shallower than it looks on the map. But what I want to do is basically make my way into this little point to start out, right off the main channel. There's kind of a little secondary cut as well, or a secondary creek. And I want to see if we can see any fish either on the side scan up here. Maybe we'll see some fish just kind of chilling on this flat. Maybe there's some fish that are suspended out in front of this little hump. If we don't find anything out here, obviously there's more spots to check. It's getting pretty shallow there. We're just gonna graph around. We're gonna try to see what we can find. So I like starting on these really flat spots, especially early in the morning, to see if there's some fish maybe setting up on this little flat. Maybe we can find a little group of them. Doesn't look like we really are seeing much on this deal right now. Maybe actually a few fish just popped right there on that side scan, which is really interesting. We just barely caught them. I will show you that in a second. I'm gonna keep graphing here for a second. I'm seeing a few fish now on that side scan view right in that channel. So if we go over here, these fish are really sneaky, guys. But if we take a look, we can actually see them. If we zoom in, you can see them in the shadow of that drop, and there's actually another couple right there. They're right on that little break. That's kind of interesting. I don't know how many there are or how big they are, but I'm gonna mark that with a little rock icon, and we may go check that out. Now we got more stuff out here in the channel. Let's pull back this view. So we got a bunch of fish in this channel, and there's actually some fish that are suspended on this bait. So there are a lot of fish out here, which is kind of interesting. And I kind of expected that with these overcast conditions. These fish will have a tendency to roam, and that bait will also sometimes sit more in the channels rather than pushing up into the flats. It's just something about cloudy days. On those sunny days, the bait fish like to raise higher up in the water column, so they're going to be up on the flats more and up in shallower water. But when you get, ooh, there's maybe another little school or a little wad of them right there on side scan again. My 2D sonar is not looking the best today, but if we take a look at that side scan view, we may have to regraph that. There's potentially another wad of fish setting up right there. We zoom in, you can see all those dots. There's a handful of fish. They're sitting right on the edge of this deal. I'm gonna mark this with a little school icon. Let's go regraph that really quick. See what we got. It looks like these fish are either gonna be right on a hard break or a hard lip of a ledge, or they are kind of out here suspended. So I'm kind of interested to see when we get over to this little channel here, if we can find any fish kind of setting up in that channel. But I also like finding these fish on the lip of the ledge. These are a lot easier to catch when they're like right on a hard break. We can catch them maybe cranking, or maybe just throwing more traditional baits. If they're out here suspended out in the middle, they're gonna be a little bit trickier to catch. But yeah, those fish right on that little waypoint right there, you can see there are a few fish just kind of roaming and stacked up right on that little ledge. So that's a good deal right there. There's even more of them right there on that little tree, and there's bait down there. Look, there's a little wad of them right there. They're schooled up pretty high in the water column on that 2D sonar. We'll pull up our 2D and side scan. So we can see those fish setting up both on that down scan view and on the 2D sonar view. Not big fish, but there's a bunch of them down there, which is a good sign. And I'm not super concerned about catching, the biggest fish in the lake. We're here in September, and September is such a tough time of the year to fish, so I'm not gonna worry if I'm not catching 3 and 4 pounders every single cast. If I can just get on some fish, that's gonna be a really good day. So let's graph around a little bit more. There's more fish here just roaming on bait. I think we can catch maybe some of those fish cranking that were on that lip of that ledge maybe, or doing something similar to that. And then there's a few more fish down this drop right there as well. So there's definitely some fish on these little ledges or these turns, which is pretty interesting. Few fish, and there's more fish just kind of chasing on bait, but there's definitely a few fish right here. We're gonna mark all of this stuff, and then we're gonna make our way in this little cut. So this is kind of where I'm interested to see, guys, because we're getting in the middle of this cut, and I wanna see if there's any fish kind of suspended out here. We might be already getting a little bit shallower. I'm gonna spin back around. I like the idea of fishing back up in this little cut too, so we're gonna graph this as well. We're gonna kind of graph everything. As you can see, we started on that main channel, and now we're making our way into this cut. And what I'm hoping to find is something like this, where we got bait popping on our 2D, and then we have a few fish that maybe are just kind of sitting around, maybe some rocks, some brush, something like that, that are chasing. Because with these cloud cover, cloudy sky conditions, these fish a lot of times will push tighter to the bottom and roam around a lot chasing bait. So I'm hoping that maybe we can find some fish that are setting up on, again, some of these brush piles. There's a really nice fish, whatever that is, on a little rocky spot or a brush pile right there. I'll mark that here in a second. I want to see what's happening out in the middle of this gut though, because if there's any fish that are suspended out here on this kind of deeper water area on any shad, it could go down, but that little rocky spot looked really good too. This is interesting. This is kind of what I was thinking we might find as well. So we got some bait out here. I'm gonna switch over to this view. We can see a really hard thermocline at 32 feet. And then we have these bait balls, and we also have, I'll point out, we have some fish that are actually swimming around out here, and there's actually some fish swimming around these bait balls as well, like in the bait itself. So we got fish on bait balls. We have potentially some fish sitting up on the bottom. There's kind of fish spread out everywhere this morning. It's kind of a early morning time of the day, so these fish will be a little bit more kind of spread through this area, but I like the fact that we have a lot of different options here. We have some brush, we have a few fish that are setting up deeper, suspended, we have some fish on those hard breaks. I kind of want to just get in here and just start fishing. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start on those fish that were positioned really tight to the bottom on some of these points. If we kind of pull up this mapping, I'm going to start on some of these groups right in here. So this group, and that group, because they're tight to the bottom. They're probably gonna be a little bit easier to catch, and we can just line up on those things with waypoints and catch them. And then we may kind of poke around out here deeper in the middle of this creek and somewhere around this point, see if we can pick off some of those suspended fish as well. So let's go head over to these waypoints really quick and see if we can fire on them and put a few fish in the boat. Oh, there's a school of them way up there, guys. Way up on that flat, 80 feet. There's a bunch of them up there. These fish have to eat. Come on. Come on, they're all over my bait. Eat it. Eat it. One of you just come eat it. Eat it. There we go, finally got one. Dang, followed it long enough, fish. Oh, it's just because they're little guys. There we go. You're seeing a bunch of these fish on the graph, guys. And I thought they were on these drops, but I think that what they're doing is they're just randomly roaming out here, and there's a pile of them. You can see them all on the active target here. And I tried just cranking those areas where we graphed those fish on 2D, but they were completely gone. And I think what's happening is that there's just wads of them out here that we graphed. We saw those schools on the 2D, but they weren't necessarily actually setting up like you would normally think on nutritional ledge. They're actually just kind of randomly roaming out here. And you can see these little pods of them. And it's interesting because I'm throwing my bait around these things. best I can, but they're swimming so fast. It's hard to keep up with them. They're just moving around so much. And I think it's just this cloud cover and stuff like that. And you know, they're there for a second and then they're gone. And I'm trying to stay ahead of them so I don't waste too many casts. Let's see here. Oh, they're there. They're on my bait. Come on, come on, eat it. Got them. Oh, come on, eat it. They're all so little they can't even get my bait. That's the problem on this little deal. But there's got to be a wolf pack. Look at all those fish. It's got to be a wolf pack of bigger ones as well. I mean, there are a pile of fish down there. They're all just those 12 inchers. So we're going to kind of look around, see if we can find a bigger group of these, and or at least a group that has bigger fish in it. And all I'm really going to do on that, guys, is I'm just going to scan this flat, looking for these wads, and hopefully there's another wad like over there, 80 feet. Hopefully one of these has like 2 to 3 pounders in it, which oftentimes happens this time of year. They'll kind of school up by size. So I'm going to roam around here in the middle of this ditch, which we're basically right in the dead center, kind of just on the edge of that ditch that we graphed earlier, where we were seeing all those fish on the bottom that I was showing you. And there's fish on the bottom, obviously, but some of these fish are just kind of roaming as well. There's just a lot of fish in this area. Oh, come on, eat it. There's like 10 of them on it. Eat it. Eat it, eat it, eat it. Come on. Just gotta keep that bait coming. Maybe see if I kill it. I might also need to figure out what bait they like best, because I mean, some of these fish again are just too small to even get my bait. So I don't know if that's part of it or if it's a color thing. There's a lot of factors with this deal that can make a big impact. I'm actually going to switch baits. Got him. There we go. Little fish here, nothing crazy, but got him on a little core tackle prototype. Finally, first fish actually ate it, and it's actually a largemouth. Nice one right there, and just a little largemouth, nothing crazy. Got him on a little core tackle prototype rig, and I've been throwing this around actually just for a couple of trips, and it works really, really well on these fish. They eat it way better, I find, than a Damiki rig for whatever reason, because it's just unique. It's a little bit different rig. We're gonna be coming out with it here relatively soon, and literally that was my first drop on that school. I've been throwing a bunch of different stuff to try to get these fish to react. I think it's somewhat of a bait specific deal right now. They want a very specific bait. Okay, so another interesting thing that's happening out here as we get another big group that's crushing on bait is that some of these fish are just out here in the middle of the channel, like the middle of the center of the creek channel, and then other groups are actually roaming up into that little ditch that we graphed earlier. So we have fish in the ditch, and then we have fish out here in the middle, and they're kind of just everywhere right now. Let's see if one of these fish will eat it, or if I missed that cast too much. Man, I missed that cast by just a little bit, and they didn't want anything to do with it. It needs to be like right on them. That's crazy, guys. I mean, my casting, I'm casting like at 60. Problem is these fish are swimming to the right or the left constantly. So getting my bait on them, my bait's now at 40 feet. Now I'm going right in the middle of them. This should be a fish, come on. Oh, look at all of them. Eat it, eat it, eat it, eat it. One of them's gotta get that. Got him, there we go. Look at how many fish are in that group, guys. That's crazy. Middle of the creek channel, and that's a freaking good largemouth. Keeper largemouth out here on the prototype core tackle rig. They love this thing, dude. It's a little Damiki killer right here, and I'll talk about it more in upcoming videos. We are still working through it. This is the first prototype I got, but I want to try to find that group again, because that was a massive school. Oh my goodness, where'd they go? They're just out here behind the boat now. Let's see if we can get my bait to a couple of them. They're still in the area. Once you catch one, they kind of almost like break up, and it's harder to get them to bite again. Here's my bait. Where'd they go? You can see these schools are just these massive groups, and they kind of ebb and flow. There's another one over here, and they're out here. I'm literally in the middle of the creek channel, guys. Absolutely wild. And you can graph these fish with 2D like we did at the very beginning to find them. it's just without forward facing, it's hard to stay on these fish, to be honest, guys. I'm gonna be 100% honest. It's really hard to stay on them without forward facing. So you gotta use it for this technique. I think these fish will settle down and set up on some of these drops and ledges later in the day, but you're gonna have to wait it out, wait for the conditions to get a little more conducive for that. Because right now, at least this time of day, they're not really wanting to do that. They're wanting to roam and chase out here. And this is like almost like what guys are doing in the middle of the winter, but they also do it out here in September. And at this point, I am literally sitting in the dead middle of this creek. It's absolutely wild. I'm trying to follow the school. It's hard to keep track of them sometimes because they swim and they roam so much. So I don't want to make too many casts out here because there's a really good chance that my cast is gonna miss if I don't hit them right on. So like that group you can see is swimming so fast right now that I can't keep up with them. So I'm gonna scan around too to see if there's other groups while I'm out here, but I kind of want to stay with this one group because I just caught a good largemouth out of it. So I'm gonna try to track them down, but I am literally about to go to the other side of the lake here chasing these fish. They're moving so fast. Trolling motor's on 6 out of 10 speed. So I mean, I am cooking it right now and these fish are just moving. Crap, I missed that cast by like, oh, they're still coming forward. Come on, come on. Eat it, eat it, eat it. Eat it. Oh gosh, eat it. They're bumping it, they're hitting it. They're not getting it, come on. Come on. Dang it, I think I pulled it a little bit too far away from them. Sometimes that happens, guys, when you don't drop it right on the center of these groups and you kind of pull them to it, they're a little bit less likely to eat. There's another big wad. And we also want to find groups that we haven't caught a fish out of. Once you catch a fish out of one group, they become a little bit trickier to catch versus like a fresh group like the one I'm just casting at here. So if you can find a fresh group, it's always going to get you more bites usually. They are swimming fast towards me, my goodness. They're swimming to the left and fast. Let's see if I can get my bait down to them. Oh man, oh, they're out going to that ball of bait down there. They're going crazy down to that ball of bait. Look at those fish, guys. That's wild. Where are they? They're swimming so fast. It's so hard to keep up with them right now. Trying to just predict the direction they're gonna swim to more so than anything, because otherwise, like, it's hard to get on them. I don't want to get too close to the boat though. Dang it, they got underneath the boat. That's not good. They don't normally eat super well when they're right underneath the boat, but maybe, oh, come on. Dang it, they got too close to the boat there and that spooked them. One hit it, but that messed them up a little bit. So you gotta be careful too. You can't let them get that close to the boat. You can see, guys, this is kind of a cluster out here a little bit. It looks really easy when you just watch an individual fish catch or whatever, but when I'm actually out here doing it, it's kind of crazy. I mean, obviously this is easier than going down the bank right now. So I'm not saying that it's that hard. You're still seeing them and you're moving around, but there is something to it. You really have to wait and be patient. It's almost like fishing for schooling fish out here, because a lot of these fish will come up and actually start schooling out here in the middle, and that's pretty typical. So what I like to do is try to wait the best I can for a lot of those fish to show up on the screen, and then I try to follow them and just hit that cast, but I kind of lost that last group there. So now we kind of have to go around here and relocate them. And sometimes it takes a bit to relocate a group. You kind of have to just get out here in the middle and scope around. Obviously, we're going to move back towards this ditch where we were catching them earlier, or at least seeing them early on the graph, because there's a good concentration around the mouth of that ditch. And again, it's pretty cool that we can find those fish with traditional sonar. It's just catching them is really difficult without the forward facing. Come on, eat it. Eat it, eat it, eat it, eat it, eat it, eat it. Got him, there we go. Oh, come on, eat it, eat it, eat it. There's so many around it, get it. Just one of you, eat it, just choke it. Oh, come on. You all that tiny that you can't get it? Got him. Finally, one of these fish out of the school. Just a little spotted bass. No wonder they couldn't get it. Or just a little largemouth, actually. Man, they were chomping that thing like crazy. Saw them all up over the top of it, and I had like 4 hit it, and finally one actually got it. Okay, one other common mistake I see a lot of anglers making when they're out here with forward-facing sonar is they'll see a bunch of dots. I mean, there's fish down there on the screen at 60 feet. They're all over the place out here, and they'll just want to cast at every single fish they see. But a lot of times it's not worth even casting at these fish unless they are high enough in the water column where you can actually reach them effectively. So if you see there's some bait up here 80 feet away from the boat that's like 10 feet down, if there's fish around that, those fish are a lot easier to catch than those fish that are way down at the bottom of the lake, just kind of chilling by the thermocline down there. So I won't cast at those fish, and instead I'm going to wait until I find one of those schools like I've been showing you. And it's not like there's schools like that all over the place. I mean, there are just a couple of them out here. So it is a patience game trying to find them. And I would highly recommend not casting at just every little dot, because you're going to waste so many casts. You're going to be out of position if you do see a school of fish, because you'll have to reel your bait in and you'll miss that opportunity. And it just makes it way harder. So, I mean, it's kind of a boring process, to be honest, right now, just kind of waiting around until I see fish. But it is kind of like that a lot of times when you're chasing these random groups. You just have to wait until they show up on the screen, set that range to 100 feet, and just pan right and left. We know they're in the area again because we graphed them with 2D sonar. That's the benefit. We didn't just get out here randomly in the middle of the creek, drop the trolling motor and start going, because if we did that, it would take forever to find these fish. So we were able to use forward-facing sonar to catch the fish, but we use traditional sonar to locate them and save us a ton of time. Got him. There we go, right underneath that bait ball. That was sick. Jumped out of the water, got that fish. Here we go. On our little prototype deal. That's what I'm talking about. Absolutely choked it. I actually put a treble hook on this thing. We have a cool design on this where we can put a treble hook on it, and it'll get these smaller fish that are just kind of nipping at it. And that is very cool. Got that fish underneath that bait ball. Wasn't a big wad like we saw earlier, but dropped on them when they were feeding on that bait, and they ate that thing. Man, sometimes you just kind of have to wade around here, or just not wade, but just, plunk around out here. There's another wad of them actually out there. Look at that. About 60 feet out. They're kind of deep. I doubt I'm gonna be able to get my bait down to them in time. By the time they're still feeding. But you can see they're pushing bait right there. There's a bunch of fish on that bait ball. Let's see. I don't know. It's pretty deep down there. The rig I have on is only 3/16 of an ounce. That's the only prototype we have right now. If we had a heavier version, I could probably switch to a different rod, but I don't have that option right now. And this rig is the only thing I can get them to bite on. So let me see if I can float this 3/16 down there on these fish. You can see they're doing the same thing they were up at the surface, just kind of chasing on that bait. And see if I can get, I made a decent cast, and there's some fish down on that bait ball. Maybe it'll actually work. Let's see here. I'm on a fish right there. See if one of them will actually come get interested in my bait. That was a long drop. Oh, he's coming. No? No? Yeah? Come on. These aren't bass down here, probably. They're not reacting at all to my bait. These are all just probably random rough fish. Okay, didn't make that cast happen. Let's try to find another wad. Oh, there they are. That's what I was looking for right there. Let's see if I can actually get my cast on them. Of course, I miss it. There's another one of those wads. It took me like 15 minutes of going around out here to find a wad. Where are they swimming? Swimming to the left a little bit. Did I hit him? Ah, I missed him by just a little bit, dang. Get on high and try to chase him down. Where are you going? Gotta stay with them because it took me long enough to find them. You gotta stay with them. We're at 60 feet right now. They're swimming so fast. They're literally keeping up at 60 feet, and I am ripping it on the trolling motor. I mean, as soon as I stop my trolling motor, these fish are gone. The crazy thing is, by the time I make my cast all the way up there at 60 feet, they're swimming so fast, and my bait doesn't even get to them. They're just flying. Another wad of shad over here. Are there bass on that? Oh, there's some good ones. Oh my gosh, those are big fish. Oh, got them right there. Those don't look, well, it's not that big, but it felt like a decent one. Man, they were up right on the surface. This rig just gets them, guys. This is my new favorite deal. Just a little spotted bass, but absolutely choked that rig. Oh my gosh. Just a nice little spotted bass there. Get back down there, bud. And guys, I'm not out here catching a bunch of big fish today on this spot in particular, but it's always helpful to start acclimating yourself to a technique in an area that has a lot of fish, because you can get a lot of bites, you can experiment with different baits and retrieves and things like that. And then if I wanted to go find fish that were bigger, I could graph similar types of ditches and drains and things like this using 2D sonar and down imaging, try to find some better quality fish. And I've made videos explaining how I can differentiate the size of fish on 2D sonar, down scan, stuff like that. So I could definitely do that, but right now I just want to really experiment with these fish, try to figure out what baits are working, and then if I wanted to go later today and try to find those bigger fish, I could just graph and graph and graph until I found those, you know, bigger schools of 3 and 4 pounders, which are out here somewhere in the lake. I just don't know exactly where, and that's just more of, you know, putting your time in. But if you just want to get out here and catch a bunch of fish, this is really fun right now, and you can see that there are fish all over the place out here, but you got to wait until you find a little wad of them. There's a wad of like 4 or 5. Maybe they'll eat. I don't know. Oh, he's coming for it. Come on. Come on. Eat it. Oh, he was not that interested. And so it's cool to kind of, oh, there's a couple of them there though. Is one of them gonna eat it? Come on. No? No. It's interesting because like you can learn so much about the fish behavior by trying to fish for different fish, casting at smaller groups, bigger groups, finding groups that are deeper or shallower, and you can learn more and more about which fish not to throw at and which fish to throw at, which ones are catchable, which ones aren't. And a lot of my day, guys, is doing this. I am just going around looking, and you can see there's so many fish again on the screen, like 80 feet, 30 feet down. And I have thrown a ton of those fish earlier today and have not gotten any of them to bite. So I have started completely ignoring those fish, even though it looks great down there. I mean, it looks like there's some big fish. Maybe I'll throw out that one really big one just to maybe see. Maybe I can actually get them to bite. There's a big dot down there. That's probably a spoonbill or something. And, you know, I'm not getting super concerned if I'm not getting bit on these giant blobs, because the chances of this being a bass is not always that high. Now, it could be a bass, so it's worth maybe throwing at, but I think a lot of these dots and things you're seeing down here are just big gizzard, shad, whatever. So what you want to see is right freaking there, all of those dots that are a little bit bigger and stacked together. Maybe I can get my bait on them. Did I get the cast? I don't know if I got the cast. There, I probably didn't get the cast. Oh, I did. Come on. Eat it. Eat it. There's so many of them on it. Just get it. These don't look that big, but there's so many on it. Eat it. If that thing fall down into them, maybe one will just want to grab it if I snap it. Try some different retrieves. Try some different stuff. And again, maybe one of these schools is a school I already caught fish out of, so they're not as interested, because a lot of times when you catch fish out of a group, they will get pretty smart, which is crazy, because you would think, oh, it's, you know, just a fish, but they actually get pretty smart to this stuff, especially if you just caught one out of it. So I've seen that happen more than once, but maybe one will come and eat it. Come on, eat it. Yeah, they get wise to your bait so fast. So a lot of times too, if I'm in a situation like this and I've beat up on these same schools over and over, it's probably the same like 5, 6, 7 schools I'm catching them out of. I probably roll to another spot, graph another ditch, try to find another group of them so I'm not just beating up the same fish. Maybe let these rest for like an hour or two and I could always come back. But you know, the fish are gonna change and move and shift, but it's a lot of fun getting out here and chasing them around at times. It's not, you know, my #1 favorite way to fish, but it can be fun in small doses. But what I'm probably gonna do, guys, is stop this now. There's more fish to be caught out here, but I got my little prototype bait here, caught some fish. We're now gonna go try to find something else going on today. I might try to go a little bit shallower, maybe throw a spook and do something a little bit different. So you'll probably see that video as well once I get that out. But there's a lot of fish out here to be caught. If you get out here, graph with your down scan, 2D sonar, they're busting all around the boat already still. So if you guys want to get out here and try this, definitely graph around, use that creek channel rule to find where smaller creek channels intersect with that main creek channel, and you're gonna find some fish pretty quickly. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. We'll see you on the next one.